full adjustable coilovers, 18-inch wheels, thin tires, angel eye headlights, LED interior lighting. The car has like 3 modifications. It has a catback exhaust. Technically the BBS wheels are not factory. And it has lowering springs. People always ask me, what's your next mod? What's the next thing you have planned for the car? And honestly, it's maintenance and drive it. BMWs have been a part of my life since I was about 2 years old. My dad owned a black on gray 88 635, and I used to ask him to put me in the car and drive fast and put Metallica on loud. And growing up, I always remember my dad having an E24 in the garage. Of course, at the time, I just knew it as the black BMW. I didn't really get into cars until I got my first car, which was actually a automatic Mercedes 190E that was hand-me-down from my grandpa. And eventually I ended up buying an E36 325i 5-speed, which was my first BMW. I had that for like a year and a half, and I had some crazy airbag incident with it where the passenger airbag detonated for like no reason while I was driving on the freeway. Ended up selling it for parts, and that's when I ended up finding my first E24, which was a 1986 635 CSI. But it was a pretty nice car, and I had that one for 2 years, and I drove it, and I did a ton of work to it. That's when I really started working on my own car as well, and started getting into the mechanic aspect of car ownership. And then I stumbled upon my second 635, which was an 88 Cinnabar red on gray, comfort seats, automatic again, but it was an original family-owned car. Had brand new BBS RS05s on it with the gold centers. So I ended up trading straight across for the 88 for like $400 in difference between what I sold the blue car for and what I bought the red car for. So my dad bought this M6 back in late 2011 and had it for 3 years. He sold it and we saved the contact info, and he was like, man, I really should have kept the black M6. I sold it for so little because at the time he sold it, the market on them hadn't really jumped up yet. So he ended up selling it for like $15,000-$16,000, which is nothing for one of those cars now. So we reminisced and we kind of like thought it over, and we ended up calling the guy we sold the car to, or my father sold the car to, and we ended up striking a deal, and I bought the car back from the guy he had sold it to. So the day we picked it up, I drove there in my little Beatbox E21 that I was using to drive to school, and I got to drive the M6 home by myself for the first time. Driving it home the first day that we got it back with just me in the car, it was unreal. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, the whole time I was driving it, it didn't even feel like it was my car. And I never thought I'd own one at 20 something years old. Like, I thought I was gonna be like 50. It's not a race car. It's not super fast. It's not super nimble. It's exactly what it looks like. It's a moderately heavy 80s Grand Touring car. It's got a plush interior, it's relatively quiet, and it's fast, but it's not like fast. There's so much more to a car than a 0 to 60 time and horsepower numbers, which I really love. Like, interior quality and interior design for me is like a huge thing, because that's where you spend your entire time driving the car, is the inside. So if like the interior of the car is ugly or like uninspiring, it takes away from the total experience of the car. And something that I've always loved about the E24 is the design of the interior. I love the super rigid gauge pod, and I love that the whole interior is angled towards the driver. It's always been very airplane cockpit. You don't always have to modify and change stuff to make it a good car. There's nothing about the car that I want to change. It drives exactly the way I want it to drive. There's not a single thing about the way it drives that I don't like. I'm a firm believer that this car is perfect the way it was built.